Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Adam Noh bin Adnan, and I'm from public speaking class, section 304 from the Center of Our Nation Studies of the International Islamic University of Malaysia. And right now, I'll be talking about my persuasive speech assignment, which is entitled "Should Voting Be Made Compulsory?" Okay, first one. Why I want to talk about this issue, because actually this issue have been lingering on in our society's minds since long ago. Every time the general election times come, the society always contemplating whether to make whether the government should make this general election process compulsory to all the citizens or to not. But for me, voting or election process is actually more to is actually more to our responsibilities, our rights as citizens of a country to help our country. But it is not something that we need to give punishment to our citizens just because they don't vote. It is for me, it is more to moral responsibilities rather than compulsory things. Okay, so we move on to definition. First one, what is voting? Voting is an act of individual to choose, to pick, or to vote someone or some parties to be their representatives in the general election or in the by-election to form a government. And secondly, what is compulsory? If we check on Merriam-Webster, there are two definitions of compulsory. The first one is mandatory or enforced, for example, like compulsory retirement. Secondly, coercive or compelling, for example, like compulsory measures. So before that, I will state my stance in this issue. I oppose this kind of idea of making compulsory or election process as a compulsory things, as compulsory to all citizens, because of two reasons. The first one, because it is contradicts with the idea of democracy itself. Secondly, because we want to avoid non-serious voters that will make the country worse than right now. Okay, move on to my first point. Voting should not be made compulsory because the first one, it will contradicts with our practices, with our practices, which is the idea of democracy that we have been practicing all along. So Abraham Lincoln said that democratic government is a government that made by the people, for the people, and to the people. So it means that the idea of democracy is the idea that believes that all people, all citizens have their rights to do something or to don't on his or her own accord. So if you want to see by the legal perception in the federal constitution itself, there are articles regarding the freedom of movement, whether someone has the rights to do something. To be exact, in Article 9, in the Article 9, it stated that every citizen of the federation are free to move throughout the federation as long as they don't pose a threat to the federation. In this context of movement, there are some kind of acts that doesn't include in this context of movement. But when it comes to rights, individual rights to vote or to not, this is included in what the constitution said as the freedom of movement. This is also supported by other countries. How? For your information, in this world, in this earth, there are 122 countries, and out of that 144, there are only 22 countries that make their general election process or voting process as compulsory. So it means that the other country, the majority of the world, believes that voting should not be made compulsory, because they believe that the democracy must prevail rather than being a tyrant. If you make it compulsory, it's actually make the country or make the government of that country being rather tyrant than being democracy. So moving on to the second point, we don't want to make voting as compulsory because we want to avoid non-serious voters. According to Syahrani Ismail in BH Online, on 27th January of 2018, our ex-deputy Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Zahid Hamidi, have said that campaign of spoil votes, or popularly known as #UndiRosak, is actually will make our democracy, will ruin our democracy. So what is non-serious voters? Non-serious voters is the voters that went to the voting process, but they do their voting, but they don't do it with their full of hearts, with their full of hearts. So some of their votes tend to be spoiled votes that will affect the general election results, and some of them just cross the paper without thinking who they want to be as their government, who they want to be to govern them, who they want to be administering them, but end up after the government have been formed, they are the one who will make the most complaint about the government. So this kind of people, this kind of issues, this kind of things, we need to avoid this because it will affect our country. It will make it worse. How so? These non-serious voters will vote, and their vote will affect the general election results and may lead to results that, for example, like Party A have been elected to be the government, but but the Party A is actually not worth to be a government, rather than Party B that is worth to be a government, but doesn't elected by the people because of these non-serious voters. So based on that two arguments, I believe that voting should not be made compulsory, as every people has its own rights, have their own choice to vote who they want, and whether they want to vote or not. It is parallel to the concept of democracy itself, and to avoid the non-serious voters that will make the country worsen. So that's all from me. I raise my case here. Thank you, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.